Good morning. Today we are discussing chickenpox, also known as varicella. To the layperson, this is often viewed as a simple rite of childhood, a few itchy spots, and a week off school. However, to the senior physician, varicella is a sophisticated pathogen that challenges our understanding of immunology, neurology, and public health. We are going to look beyond the surface of the rash to understand the strategic management of the varicella-zoster virus. Let us begin with the etiology. This disease is caused by the varicella-zoster virus, a highly contagious member of the herpes virus family. It is an airborne disease, and its efficiency in finding new hosts is remarkable. In a close-contact environment, the infection rate is approximately 90%. It spreads with ease through respiratory droplets when an infected person coughs or sneezes, or through direct contact with the fluid within the blisters. One of the most critical clinical facts you must remember is the window of contagiousness. A patient is infectious for 1 to 2 days before the first spot even appears. This is why outbreaks in schools and households are so difficult to contain. By the time the diagnosis is obvious, the virus has already moved on to the next host. When we examine the global epidemiology, we see a world divided by the year 1995. Before the introduction of the vaccine by Maurice Hillman and his team at Merck, annual cases were almost equal to the annual birth rate. Today, in the United States, we have seen a dramatic 90 to 97% decrease in infections. However, globally, the burden remains heavy. We still see roughly 140 million cases of chickenpox and shingles annually. In temperate climates, this is a seasonal disease of childhood, peaking in winter and spring. But in tropical regions, the disease shifts toward older populations. This is a significant clinical point. Adults in the tropics who contract primary varicella often suffer more severe symptoms, resulting in darker pockmarks and deeper scarring. Now, let us turn our attention to the pathophysiology, which explains the lifelong engagement between this virus and the human body. When a person is first exposed, the immune system responds by producing immunoglobulin G, immunoglobulin M, and immunoglobulin A antibodies. While this immune response eventually resolves the skin lesions, the virus is never actually eliminated. Instead, it travels from the skin, through the local sensory nerves, and enters a state of latency in the dorsal root ganglion cells of the spine or the trigeminal nerve of the face. It remains there dormant for decades. Later in life, when cell-mediated immunity weakens due to aging, stress, or illness, the virus reactivates. It does not cause chickenpox a second time. Instead, it causes shingles, a painful, blistering rash that follows a single nerve path on one side of the body. We must also keep in mind that this virus has a dangerous relationship with the vascular system. Varicella-associated arterial ischemic stroke accounts for nearly 1/3 of all childhood strokes, and this risk can manifest months or even years after the initial infection. When you are at the bedside, the clinical presentation follows a very specific evolution. In adults and adolescents, the disease often starts with a prodromal phase of nausea, headache, and aching muscles. This is followed by the characteristic rash, which often begins on the face, scalp, and torso before moving to the arms and legs. We frequently see an internal rash, or ananthem, in the oral cavity. These small ulcers can be quite painful and can appear several days before the external blisters. The external rash moves rapidly from red dots to bumps to fluid-filled blisters. In medical circles, we often refer to these as dewdrops on a rose petal because of the clear vesicles sitting on a red, inflamed base. Within a few days, these blisters burst, umbilicate, and form scabs. For a healthy child, this usually resolves in about a week. But for adults, the rash is more widespread, the fever is higher, and the duration is longer. The diagnosis and management of varicella require both clinical judgment and pharmacological caution. In most pediatric cases, the classic rash is all the evidence you need. However, in atypical cases, especially in vaccinated individuals who may have very few spots, we use polymerase chain reaction testing of the blister fluid to confirm the presence of viral DNA. In the laboratory, we might also use a zinc smear to look for multinucleated giant cells, though this test cannot tell the difference between varicella and herpes simplex. Regarding management, our first goal is supportive care. We use calamine lotion or oatmeal baths for the itching. We advise parents to keep their children's fingernails short to prevent the deep scratching that leads to secondary bacterial infections like group A streptococcus. Now listen closely to this point on fever management. Paracetamol or acetaminophen is our preferred treatment. You must never give aspirin to a child or adolescent with chickenpox. This combination can trigger Reye's syndrome, a catastrophic condition that causes fatal damage to the liver and the brain. Furthermore, we now advise against using ibuprofen, as it has been linked to a higher risk of severe soft tissue infections like necrotizing fasciitis. For those at high risk, such as pregnant women or the immunocompromised, we advise the use of antiviral medications like acyclovir or valacyclovir, but they must be started within 24 to 48 hours of the rash onset to be effective. Finally, we must address the most serious complications. While chickenpox is rarely fatal, with about 1 death per 60,000 cases, it is a significant danger during pregnancy. If a woman is infected during the first 28 weeks, the fetus is at risk for congenital varicella syndrome. This can result in devastating outcomes: microcephaly, cataracts, limb hypoplasia, and even anal or bladder malformations. If the mother develops the rash just before or after delivery, the newborn faces neonatal varicella, which carries a very high risk of pneumonia. We also have to respect the rare but grave hemorrhagic syndromes, such as malignant chickenpox with purpura, which has a mortality rate exceeding 70%. In conclusion, while we often see chickenpox as a routine clinical encounter, it is a pathogen that requires our full respect. Our role is to manage the acute symptoms, protect the most vulnerable populations, and remain vigilant against the long-term neurological and vascular risks that this virus leaves in its wake. Thank you for your attention. Please let me know if you have any questions.